Hello! You already know who I am. Look, I'm Alton. I always go through that at the beginning. First time users, first time viewers, I always like to let you know who I am. As you can see behind me, you got the 4 rings. No, it's not the Olympics. It's actually the Audi Q5. This is the vehicle. I already popped the hood. So I'm just going to give you a brief glimpse. I always love to do that rather than just taking you into detail on what I'm going to be doing. This is a 2016 model. And I typically will have the vehicle serviced at the local Audi dealer, but I can't get it in. There's a number of recalls open on this vehicle, which is open in the last year, so I can't get it in. The thing that I'm going to go ahead and do, though, is go ahead and change my oil. So we're going to go ahead, as you can see, and get started. I have already popped the hood. If you don't know where your hood latch is, you need to go back to your salesperson and say, hey, look, can you give me a little bit more detail about my vehicle? So I'm going to show you a couple things. Once to let up your hood, you're just going to take this lever right here and push up. You can actually see everything in motion there once I do it. Get you in a little bit closer. This is your hook. So I'm going to let it down once more. So you're going to come underneath. It's dead smack center and push upward. And all I'm doing there is just pushing up right here. So once that's up, next thing, your cover here. And you can go ahead and pop your oil lid. This is a couple of 100 miles over, 200 to 300 miles over the annual service. You can see the texture of the oil there. Definitely time to get it changed. On the lid, it's going to take and pull up. Actually quite simple. It's got tabs all the way around, and once I get this off, I'll show you exactly what I'm doing here. So once I flip it over, you can see there where everything just goes right in. Got a little knob here, and this will actually fit right into the socket here. So just remember that. You can see the sockets there a little bit everywhere. Got a little bit of cloth from the side. So this is the underpinnings of the cover, which would typically be as such. So when I did take that off, I'm going to position everything here accordingly so I don't forget to do anything. When I did take that off, you can see the ring. This ring actually goes around your part here. So you can see on the bottom of your lid. This is where my cap went. So of course, that cap would fit right back in. Vehicle doesn't have an oil stick. With Audi, it actually keeps up with all that information for you on the inside clutch of the vehicle behind the steering wheel. Now, if you look back at some of my vehicles, I said that rather funny, but steering wheel is what you're looking at there. The instrument cluster behind the steering wheel. So the instrument cluster behind the steering wheel will actually show you how much oil is in the vehicle. You won't have an oil stick. Now I'm going to take you underneath. So once you do that, and by the way, your filter's here. So you have your filter right up top. I already have a filter. This is primarily what I'm going to be using. Here's my filter. And I did get this at the Audi store. Of course, I could have went and got it elsewhere, but just wanted to make sure. Now, something you will hear from Audi rivals is it's tattooed with Volkswagen Audi. The newer models, this is a whole nother subject, but the newer models will closely resemble Audi than ever before. Of course, they're trying to fight that, but not much success they're going to have there. Volkswagen saving money. This is the cap that I'm going to be using. There's a number of different cap sticks you can use to actually take your oil filter off, but this is the one I'm going to be using. I'm going to show you how snug this fits. So I'm going to lay that down. This actually fits right in like a socket, and once I have that in, I can take my tool here, my socket wrench, and plug right into the top and screw it off. Now I'm going to show you that in action, but we're going to come back to that. As you can tell, I'm pretty particular. I don't like to scratch rings, anything of that, and I'm doing this right in my driveway. You're probably wondering why I'm doing it in my driveway. Simply because it shows you how easy it is. We're going to go underneath, and I'll show you exactly what you're going to be looking and dealing with there. Well, I'll go ahead and introduce you to the tools that I'll be working with. So let's go inside, and I got a couple of them here. I kind of pride myself on being able to do things single-handedly. That's part of my workout at the gym. So once I go inside, this is a T45, Torx T45. A little bit bigger. Now I have something smaller, and I have a smaller wrench because the socket on this is a little bit smaller than the large one, and that is a T20. So that's a Torx T20 and a T45. These will primarily be used to get the cover of the underbody of the vehicle off. Now, as I mentioned that to you, we're going to hold those close. Okay, so the vehicle's low enough so I can get up under it. So what I'm doing right now is taking off the cover underneath. And I forgot to mention, Phillips head screwdriver. You're definitely going to need that for the rear. You got about 3 bolts, which uses the Phillips at the very back here. Okay, so those are at the very back. You can see where I'm touching. You have 3 straight across. Now I'm going to get my Torx 20. I'm going to start at the one closest to you here. Oh, got another Phillip right here. That's fine and dandy. And you only screw like 2 or 3 times. Looks exactly like that. So now we're going to work on our Torx 20 here. And as you can tell, it's just as easy as this. I have a couple of these across the front. So we'll go ahead and remove all of these. Everything's removed. This is going to be the underpinnings of your 2016 Audi Q5, and this is primarily the area that you want to pinpoint, which is right here. That's the oil pan, and you can still feel it's pretty warm. We're going to drain that, and there you're going to need the Torque 45. So we're going to be using our socket wrench and the Torque 45 to drain that area. Now if you take a look, of course, here's the wrench we're going to be using, and we can take this and it plugs right in. So we're just going to take that off, uncap, let it drain. I've got the vehicle sit on more of a little bit of an angle, a little bit of a slope. So we're going to let that drain for a couple minutes. Then we'll come back, plug it, put the oil back in. We're ready to go. We're going to position our handy dandy oil pan properly. And I'm going to go ahead and take that off. There, just to remind you, Torque T45. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But if I'm not, just go into your hardware store and ask for one of these. Got my socket wrench. Go ahead and position. One simple spin, and so the oil, I drove the vehicle earlier, the oil was hot, of course. I've got it tilted at an angle. So all we're going to do is continue to take our plug on out. And I should be able to finish it up by hand. There we go. And of course you don't want to leave your plug inside, you can tell it's fairly small. So you definitely don't want to do that. Otherwise, you'll leave it inside and get it lost in the oil. It does have a washer on the plug, so definitely remind yourself to replace that before you plug it back up. Now, here's something I like to do personally. I always take my plug on all my other vehicles. I'll take them inside and actually wash them off. Just make sure they're good and clean. I'm going to move our oil pan over because now I'm going to go back up top and take off the oil filter. And when I take off the oil filter, it's going to allow it to drain a little bit more, get a little bit more of a flow. So I'm back up top here, as you can see on the top of the engine. Oil cap's still been removed. I've got it set over to the side, and of course my oil filter is going to be here. This is what I'm going to be removing the oil filter with. So if you look on the very bottom, I guess that's the size there, and that's 76 on top, 14 on the bottom. I guess that's the size of this. Hey, I'm no expert in instruments or tools. I just know how to, pretty much use them once I've been given instruction. So we're going to have that, and of course my socket wrench, which is here, just going to plug that right in up top, and fits like a glove onto my filter, and we're going to go ahead and take that off. The oil filter can be rather tough. I had to apply a bit of elbow work to that to get that off, to get it spinning. But basically you want to go counterclockwise, and of course it's loose enough now. I can take my socket wrench out and I can go ahead and continue to unscrew. Now the good thing about it is, if you notice here, this is actually upside down. Most of your American-made, most of your automobile manufacturers will put it right side up and underneath the vehicle. But I can take it off here. Going to get you in a little bit closer, and of course hopefully we won't have any oil drip at all, because this is directly above the belts. So none at all. And take a look there. Very well done by Audi. Absolutely love it. Gonna give you a closer look there again, and no oil whatsoever. So this is the old oil filter. Of course, we're going to get rid of this and we're going to apply the new one. Okay, so I've got my plug, cleaned it up. I use dish detergent. I've done this on all my vehicles. Not one will actually leak. Made sure it's completely dry. Got my socket wrench, and I've got my Torque T45. So got that in hand as well. And gonna go ahead and clean this up just a bit. So this is just a regular napkin. Of course, some of the things I do, you can do them if you like. I think you're going to be very safe. I've done them on all my vehicles, from the Mercedes to the Cadillac to the Lexus. So I've done it on them all. We're going to go ahead and place the plug back in and clean this up just a little bit more. And as you saw earlier, I'm lying on the ground just to show you how much clearance the vehicle has off the ground. No oil waste in the driveway. Remember, you got to stay environmentally safe. So there we are there. Got that as tight as I can get it by hand. Socket wrench, and let's tighten it back down. We'll go back to the top and get everything taken care of. So that's already tight. Just gonna tighten it just a bit more, just to make sure there. Gonna leave it there. Vehicle's got a couple recalls on it, so they'll be able to check me on all this when I take it in. Gonna bring that back because that washer may have been loose, so I'm gonna come back again. Okay, so that's tight enough. Now from here, of course, I'm going to leave my oil, used oil, underneath. I've got it plugged we're going to go back up top and finish everything there. The oil filter from Audi, that just screws right in to your area there. So that's all we're doing. Now notice around the lip, there's nothing around the lip. You can see the oil just kind of sitting in there. So I'm going to take it, just kind of wipe that off just a bit before I put my oil filter on. We're going to get you nice and situated here so you can see me at work. Almost feel like a chef. All right. Let's clean that up a bit. So all this that I'm cleaning now is just old oil. Right, so that's nice and clean. This is the oil cap. Let's take a little bit there and more or less just wet that lip just a little bit there. Just trying to make sure everything's solid. Of course, the lip where I'm screwing this into is already wet within itself. So just make sure you have it on. And of course, it just screws right in. It's pretty tight. I've always taken it to the dealership. It was pretty tight taking it off. So I just want to make sure I get the right amount of torque back on it when putting it on. All right. So therefore I have it hand tight. Gonna come back once more. Remember my cup here, which would allow me to remove the oil filter. Place this back on. These can be pretty tough to get off as well, so make sure I got it set on here just right. So that's a little bit beyond hand tight. Let's just make sure here. All right, so that's about right. That's about, they had it a little bit tighter than what I have it. So I'm going to leave it right there. That should be nice and tight. Of course, they say hand tight. Let's see, just to make sure. Can't get it any tighter. I've got my neck here that goes around, just a neck piece, goes around the rim of the oil entrance. This is originally where you put your oil cap. So I'm just going to take my neck piece and of course put it back on. Just snaps right back into place as you see. Sorry, put it on a little bit wrong there. So that's in place. Once that's in place, I'm going to set you back now. So now I can put on the cover. There we go. So now we're in business. So now, here we go. That's more flush. Sits right up under the cover there. I didn't notice that the first time. Apologize if I misled you. Hopefully you weren't already to that step. So now my oil cap, which is here, just fits right back in. So everything here is good. Got some extra tissue lying around. We'll throw that away. Got my torque wrench, don't want to leave that. Got everything I need up top here. Looks exactly like it did before. So we're going to break, go right up underneath, and put back on our cover. So here's the cover piece that actually fits and protects the bottom. Now, you have 9 pieces here. As you can see, these will primarily go along the front. As you can see there, you've got 3 here, and then 3 along the other side. The ones that you have here, which you can use your Phillips screwdriver for, they're going to go here, 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 and then of course you have 3 off to the other side as well. So there again, your Phillips screwdriver, here, here, and here, also on the other side, and then you're going to have your T20, torque T20, they're going to go all along the front. Now, this kind of helps you when you're parking, just so you know how low the vehicle is. If you have ground clearance, you do not need to remove those. Those stay in place. So we're going to jump back over. I'm going to position you, and you can see me come back through and complete the task at hand. So to finish the job, we've got a couple of little sections here, as you can see. Your tabs you want to take and slide right back in. So on this, rather than pulling it straight off, you're going to take it and come up and in as such. So just make sure they're all aligned. There we go. You don't want to have these up too high. And so we're in position. Now I'm going to dig back a little bit deeper. Using the Phillips screwdriver, I'm going to get these guys right here in the very back. Of course, you push them in, and then it's the same thing with more of a half turn. And your hole pretty much lines up with the screwdriver, so you don't have to raise the vehicle up. So we're locked in place one. Go ahead and knock our other two out here. Then of course the torque 20. Those are easy. Another. And the last one using the Phillips. Alright, so that's in place. Take a look at that. Got it all locked in. So we got one more step, which is just here along the front. You remember the 9 going along the front? We're going to go ahead and plug those in. So I've got everything thrown back on. I've got the cover placed back on. I've got the neck, which is right around the rim here, back in. I've got my oil filter. You can see the portion of it there sticking out from up under the cover. And just curious to know, if I reach down deep enough, now look at where I'm reaching. If I go all the way to the bottom, I can feel the oil pan, and let's see. Oh, I can feel it. There, I have it plugged as well. So the last thing I'm going to do is come in and place some oil back into the vehicle. Just read your owner's manual. Make sure you're putting the proper amount of oil. 13, 14, 15, 16, just make sure you're putting the proper amount of oil. That's going to be very important. You don't need me for that. I'm going to have you to read and then pour your own oil, and you're done. So once I'm done, I have my oil. Doesn't exactly take a full 5 quarts, so definitely read on that. You don't want to overfill it. And I'm going to go back and plug everything up and get it on the road. More than sure she'll be quite happy. So once again, click this guy to subscribe to my channel. Interesting things in which you can do on your own. All in all, if you have all your equipment, you have the car situated, this is something that could take you anywhere from 25 to maybe 45 minutes. Took me a little bit longer because I want to bring you along for the ride. Click subscribe, come back, and enjoy a number of other things about your automobile.